All right. This is Matt, the Southern Gooner, in the building. In the building. We are back. We are back. We are back. Want to discuss yesterday's game between Arsenal and Southampton. We drew 1-1. Um, it's just one of those games where we got complacent there and we took our eye off the prize. Um, and it was a hard pill to swallow because we should have walked away with something yesterday. Um, but we just completely just somewhere along the lines just lost complete flow of the game, and it just got away from us. But we have been seeing that the last couple of weeks. We've been playing with fire for the last couple of weeks, even in the European competitions. We we've been struggling with form. A lot of it, I think, has to do with the fact that um, we're running thin. And I've said this. If you've watched me on Lee Gunner's channel, if you watch me on DWTT, I've been saying this for the last month. We just don't have a strong enough bench that allows for our players any rest, any downtime, and it's starting to show. Players are looking tired. Gabriel Jesus is starting to look mentally tired. His form is off because of that. That's what I firmly believe it is. Last week I thought he was injured. I think it's down to form now. I just think he's just tired. Um, Saka, everybody's been screaming out for him to get a break. You look at the game yesterday, and what you see is you saw out of the gate we came out, and then we immediately went into a shell, and we stayed in that shell the entire time until the 88th minute. You look at last week's game. We were clawing for our lives to get out of that game with Leeds. We were hanging on by a thread. We played up to Liverpool. We played up to Spurs. But when we play these smaller teams, we tend to play down and we tend to go flat. We saw it when we went to Boulder. We saw it against PSV. And we saw it against Leeds. And we saw it against Southampton on yesterday. If we plan on competing for this title, because right now I'm going to call it like it is. We're at the top of the table. We're competing for a title. We're supposed to be competing for a title. There's a lot of rumblings about top four. I broke it down to Lee Gunner last week off camera. Me and him talk a lot, and I told him, I said, this is the way I look at top four. Second place, you may have just fell away down the line. The other team may have pulled away from you, or you might have pipped whoever was in second, leapfrogged them. You're in second place. Third, usually it's someone who leapfrogs four, can't quite catch the second place, and it happens every once in a while. And or number one, whoever's in first place just pulls away from everybody, and so it's basically you're battling out for second place, third place, second place, third place. It is what it is. Fourth place is usually someone who is either A, hung on for dear life, came up the back end. I'm talking sixth, fifth, fourth. That's 5, 4, or it's somebody in third place who has slipped away and fell into fourth place. That's usually how it goes. We're in first place right now, and I'm hearing people saying that fourth place is acceptable. I want y'all to think this. Let that soak in right quick. We're in first place. And either way it goes, after the World Cup, we'll either be in first or second. which allows us to compete for a title. And I'm hearing people across the interwebs, the YouTube streets, they're saying fourth place is perfectly fine. When are we going to start asking for more? You know, I think back to 2012, 2011. I was one of the very few people, this before I hit YouTube, before I even got on YouTube, but I used to hang out on the message boards a lot. There's this old message board called Arsenal America. And I used to be on there all the time. And I remember I brought up, I said, hey, I think my last straw with Wenger was right around that time, 2011, 2012. I kind of already got fed up with him. And I told somebody, I said, well, maybe we may need to look at a new manager. And I said, I just brought it up. And immediately this dude told me to, because I'm not monetized, like I say, he told me to fuck off, go down the street and support Chelsea. And all I did was say, well, maybe it's time for a change of direction. That's all I said. Why is it that as Arsenal fans, some of us, a contingent of us, are just satisfied with the minimum? We're satisfied with the minimum. We tend to, we don't ask a lot of our club. We take what we get, is whatever's handed down. I, for one, and I've told people, I for one, remember, I've seen us win titles. There is a standard here. We're one of the biggest clubs in Europe. It's time that we act like a big club. We are in the driver's seat in the Premier League. There's a window coming up in January. We have got to get it in order. If we do not do what we need to do in January, we may not even finish in the top four, because we have to look at this thing realistically. Do you all really think that Tottenham's going to keep putting up with this run of form they got? Levy and them, they'll spend money too. Look at Newcastle. Newcastle's coming up the back end now. Chelsea's trying to get it in order. At some point, Liverpool's going to figure out their form. City's definitely going to figure out what they need to do to get a title. They're going to make some adjustments. I wouldn't be surprised if they buy 2 or 3 players in January. People are saying it's hard to buy players in January. I've seen many players go in January. You're telling me right now that we're sitting at the top of the table and Arsenal rolls out to a smaller team and say, hey, man, we want this player. And you put 20, 30, 40, $50 million on the table, they're not going to take it. I mean, you got players over at Wolves right now. Wolves can't buy a win. They're probably going to get relegated. More than likely, it looks like they're going to probably get relegated unless something drastic happens on their end. And you're telling me that we can't go over and go pick 1 or 2 players that can help us get over the hump? Let's not forget 2016. We bought one player. That was Petr Cech. No outfield players. And what did it do? It cost us a title. For those who remember all the way back to Eduardo. Y'all remember that year? Eduardo went down, and what did we have? We had nothing. We had players that was hurt. For years we consistently looked for Robin Van Persie. What happened? He was hurt every time we turned around. He was hurt. Then we finally got him healthy. We sold him. For some weird reason here in the last couple of years, I don't know why we don't buy what we need. Most folks go to the grocery store, they get what they need. Emma Smith Rowe is out. He's probably going to be out for the rest of the year. People, he'll be back. Yeah, but by the time he's back, we're midway through the second half of the season. We've got to have people ready to go right now. And I told somebody recently, I said, even if it's 2 loans, 2 or 3 loans, get some extra body, get quality loans, get some extra bodies in, get some capable players to help out. We need a target man. There's no way Jesus should be trying to do everything up there on his own. I watched I watched Jazz's and Lee's fan cam yesterday, and Jazz was right. A lot of people wanted to slight, Jazz in the chat, and go, oh, well, why we want to go 4-4-2? I mean, 4-4-2 would actually suit this team because it stops people from overrunning. People are like, well, did you get bogged down in the midfield? That's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's exactly what it's supposed to do because we're getting killed in midfield. That's our problem. We're getting overran by teams in midfield, and it's usually right around the 50th minute of every game. And we're getting outran towards the second half of games. This is a pattern that we've developed. We've developed this pattern of when we're playing, teams tend to overrun the midfield. And I'm sorry. A lot of people are going to slate me, man, but I'm sorry, man. Martin Odegaard is not it. I'm sorry. He's not it, man. He's not it. We've got to have a midfielder who can, one, score goals, and B, not pass people, two, not pass people into trouble. There's a lot of times this guy passes people into trouble. He passes teams into transition. And I know, people go, well, man, he played for Real Madrid. Did he really play for Real Madrid? And I have to ask people this, man. I have to say, well, Real Madrid, they'll sell a cast off in a minute. And you have to be very careful. You have to really look at that thing when Real Madrid says let somebody go. True, there's been players that's left Real Madrid and they've done fairly well for themselves. But you have to look when certain players leave, you have to really look at that player. It's like going to look for a used car. You have to really go run it, put it through its paces, man, to figure out what's wrong with it. And if you can deal with that, whatever's wrong with it, if you can deal with it. I mean, there's no doubt he's probably a great guy. Martin Odegaard is a great guy. He seems like an upstanding young man. But as far as a football player that we need to get us to the next level, he is not that. I'm sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. I'm sorry. We've got to get a replacement for Thomas Partey for when he gets injured. Because there's no way in the world you can expect him to play the next 3 months, next 2 months, not get some kind of injury. World Cup is right around the corner. And I'm telling y'all, we're going to have some. I'm telling you, somebody's going to pay the price with these injuries at the World Cup. I'm telling you that this fatigue is going to get you coming down the stretch. We have got to get some quality signings in January. We've got to do it because we're going to get a repeat of what we saw yesterday over and over and over. And yes, Mikel Arteta is also not devoid of criticism on yesterday's game. The game got away from him. See, for those who watch DWTT, watch him on Monday nights. I'm on there all the time. If you go all the way back to last year, I about this time last year, I said we're going to be on a roller coaster with Mikel Arteta, and it's going to drive a lot of us crazy. And it's driving me crazy because what you have is you have a situation where his naivety as a manager is going to rear his head. You just hope it doesn't rear his head at the wrong time. Yesterday was one of those examples. He took off Ben White and Gabriel Martinelli, two of the best players on the pitch. He took them off and brought on Eddie Nketiah. And I forgot who the other person was. I can't remember right now. Y'all tell me in the chat. I can't remember who it was right offhand. We don't have enough on the bench to compete. We're paying Eddie Nketiah $100,000. And he's not producing $100,000 displays. We should have sold him. Excuse me. We should have sold him when we had the chance. We should have cashed in and moved on and found someone more capable. I'm sorry, man. Eddie Nketiah, work rate, all of that stuff. I hear all of the adjectives thrown around. It's not gonna get it, man. We have got to have an out and out. We got to get a goal scorer, a second goal scorer. Because if we don't, you're going to see more of this 1-1, 1-0. I mean, just go look at the goal scoring tally for the last few games. It's dropped considerably. How is it that these other teams go over and they lambash some of these teams that we're struggling with? I mean, even in Europe. I mean, look at PSV the other day. That was a display, just missing goals left and right. Let's not get too cocky, y'all. We've got to stay focused. We've got to stay focused. We've got to demand the highest quality possible from this football club. I sent Lee Gunner a an article last week. When you hear people tell you that we can't afford to spend money, that's a lie. Stan Kroenke, I'm over here in the States, and I'll tell you, Stan Kroenke just paid off, was it 400, 500, 600 million dollars for moving the St. Louis Rams? He just wiped it out. So there's no excuse for us to say we don't have money. It's a matter of what are we doing with the money. And also, let me throw this out there too. And I alluded to this yesterday on my fan cam. Edu needs to be under a good watch this window. This is a make or break window for him. This next window is a make or break window. I don't want to see any barbecues. I don't want to see any water boats. Fine living. I want to see signings. We need goals. We need goals. We are in a position to where we can realistically, y'all, listen to this, realistically compete for a title. We should be thinking like competing for a title. We should be acting like we are competing for a title. A 1-1 draw against Southampton, a team that we should have beat yesterday, is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. There are times where you play a game and they pip you at the end, and it's the 90th minute, they pip you as 1-1. That happens. But for us to have the display that we had yesterday, if we would have went way up and they would have clawed it back and fought, it's different. But when you see we score one goal and then we go into defensive shell for the rest of the game, that is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Let me tell you something right quick. I'm going to get ready to close this out. I think we've got Nottingham Forest next. I hope people go back and watch that game Saturday that they played against Liverpool. And if you don't think that they're going to come out like a house on fire, you're out your mind. You are out of your mind. Cannot make this mistake again next week. You make this mistake again next week, we'll be in second place. And City will probably start to retool and off to the races you go. Because you got to really realistically ask yourself, how many times do you think City's going to lose this year? You got to ask yourself. That's a realistic question. How many times do you think they're going to lose? They'll probably drop maybe 2 more games at best. At best. And it might be against probably one of the big dogs, but who knows? But more than likely, they're not going to drop too many points this year. So we've got to be, if we're looking to compete with them now, then we've got to start acting like we want to compete. So we need to get points when we can get them. We need to get the maximum points when we can get them. Maximum. Because when you're competing for titles, it comes down to the most thinnest of margins. Anybody who's been watching this club for a long time knows we've seen times where we were this close to winning the title, because a lot of people, you don't hear this brought up too often. But before we got our titles up under Wenger, they used to call him a choke artist, because we would get this close, that close, but we could never get over the line. People who've been watching a while, old schoolers, we know about that. We don't want to go back to those days where we become the choke artists. I'm from Georgia. I've seen enough teams around this part of the world team that we know about choke artists real good around here. So I'm telling you, We've got to compete, y'all. Compete. This is uncharted territory for a lot of Arsenal supporters. This is uncharted territory, but I'm telling you, based off of experience, you're in this position, you need to be competing. And with that, I'm going to head on out of here, but I want to tell everybody make sure you like, share, and subscribe. My IG is below. Make sure you subscribe to my channel here, the Southern Gooner. Got a treat coming up for y'all during the World Cup. Me and Lee Gunn are going to be doing a fan cam watch along. We're not fan cam. We're going to be doing a watch along, excuse me, of the United States versus England. That should be a circus because I can't tell you who's going to win that. Can't tell you who's going to win that game. So that'll be a fun game to watch, and we'll be having a good time over there. So I hope that everyone enjoyed this breakdown here. Like I said, I don't want to get over here and totally lambaste the team. I just want us to start acting like a big team, and we just really need to put the foot on the pedal. We go down. Let me tell you something. This is the way I look at it. If we go down competing for a title and we finish in second place, I can live with that without a problem. But if we whimper away all the way down to third, fourth, and we just fall flat, and it's nobody expected us to compete, then that's what I got a problem with that. I got a major problem with that because that shows a lack of ambition. That means you just take whatever you can get. And if that's the way that you're going to compete, then that just basically says we'll just if we get fourth place here and we don't make it another year, that's fine. We'll try it again. No, we need to be competing for a title, and we are in that position, y'all. We're in that position to compete for a title. But with that, I am Matt, the Southern Gooner. I hope that you all have a great day. Thanks again for taking out the time to watch this video, and we'll catch you all on the next one.